Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 7th around 7 a.m. The tropics have really come alive over the past week if you haven't been paying attention. But now we have count them, three hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin, and we could potentially have three majors within 24 hours. It could happen. It's not the forecast, but Katia in the Gulf of Mexico could get close to major hurricane status. Looks like Jose will, and Irma already is. So let's get to the maps. Here is the map on the front page of hurricanecity.com showing all three of our systems. First of all, we have Hurricane Jose east of the northern Leeward Islands. Like I said, it's going to be a very close call. The official forecast has this passing 72 nautical miles to the north of St. Martin, the island that was devastated by Hurricane Irma yesterday. It's going to be a long time to recover in St. Martin, just unbelievable devastation. And this could come very close. And then to make matters worse, some of the models, even the European model, want to turn this out here south of Bermuda, do a loop-to-loop, and then head back toward the Bahamas and follow kind of a path like Irma, maybe not quite over all the way to Florida, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the models over the next coming days with this loop out here. So we may not be done with Jose. Of course, all eyes are on Irma. We'll get to all the specifics on that in just a minute. And then we have Katia in the southwestern Bay of Campeche. It looks like it's going to pass inland between Veracruz and Tuxpan, the least populated areas. And it could be near major hurricane strength. So we'd have three majors out in the Atlantic at the same time. I think that's unprecedented. Luckily, though, this hurricane would be in the least populated area between those two population centers in Mexico. So in this video update, right now we're going to focus on Hurricane Irma because this is the big story, and there's just in South Florida alone, in southeast Florida, we have about 7 million people that can be affected by this system, so a huge population center. So let's get to the specifics. Here is the HurTrack program, and I ran the 72-hour error rate shaded here in orange, and you can see that in 72 hours at the time it's approaching South Florida, at that time frame, it could be anywhere from eastern Grand Bahama Island up there in the Bahamas all the way to west of Key West. So that is it's going to come definitely within that orange area for sure, and this will narrow tomorrow when I show you the update tomorrow morning. This will be a much narrow orange strip. For comparison purposes, looking back at past hurricanes that have affected South Florida with a similar intensity and a similar type of a track, Donna comes to mind. 1960 passed right through the center Florida Keys, up the west coast, southwest Florida coast, cut across the state, went into the Atlantic, and ended up hitting the North Carolina area and the Northeast. This was a devastating hurricane. It caused a tremendous amount of damage in the state of Florida. So this kind of a track is not looking good, considering how many people in Florida will be impacted by this hurricane. And here is a wind band graphic showing the potential for sustained winds as Hurricane Irma moves in. And you can see southeastern Florida, the high population areas, all get the highest winds of this hurricane. And then, of course, all the way out to the dark blue areas, which would be all the way out to near Grand Bahama Island and as far west as west of Lake Okeechobee, would all be in the hurricane force wind field. And the lighter shades of blue would be tropical storm force winds. Here is this morning's floater loop of Hurricane Irma, and the system still looks very symmetrical, although in the last frame it looks like a little bit of maybe erosion taking place. In the northwest quad up in this area is maybe flattening out a little bit, but that could just be temporary. We'll have to see if that continues. You see it in that last frame. It's a little bit flat, but it makes a comeback at the very end, more dark banding around the eye wall. So this is a very, very healthy hurricane. And I'm beginning to wonder, of course, as this passes north of Hispaniola, this is going to be the determining factor how much weakening occurs over the next 24 hours. Because if it doesn't weaken or at least go down to a Category 4, there's plenty of heat jet fuel in the western Bahamas towards Florida to tap into. So that's why the National Hurricane Center really doesn't weaken this very much. Let's take a look at those temperatures. And here is the sea surface temperature map from NOAA. And notice in this yellow area out in here, these are all temperatures around 87 degrees or higher. That's jet fuel for hurricanes. And In fact, some of these temperatures on the buoys I looked at over here are pushing right near 90 degrees. So this is a very warm water environment for this hurricane. And if this hurricane survives its track, right now it's traveling somewhere over here. And of course, there's Great Inagua. All indications are it's going to pass just north of Great Inagua, and then take a track right near southern Andros, and then start to make the turn. Some of the models, GFS wants to indicate this could split the uprights or come close to Grand Bahama Island, and that would be better news for Florida, worse for the Bahamas, of course. But if it, like I said, if it passes like this, the hurricane force wind field would be the core anyway, where the high winds would be right along the coast and further east. So this would be the best case scenario for Florida, and anything over here would be even better, but far worse for the Bahamas. And then, of course, you've got Great Abaco over here, Grand Bahama. You got Eleuthera down here, Nassau right here. So all these areas would be, probably devastated by this if this were to pass just on the west side of Grand Bahama. So we'll see what happens. Again, most of the European still takes it over South Florida, so that's the best performer. I'll show you that graphic in just a second. And not only are the temperatures warm at the surface, but they're warm well below the surface. You notice the red areas right over here in the western Bahamas that I just pointed out earlier. Those surface temperatures of 78 degrees or higher go way down below the surface, up to 300 feet below the surface of the ocean. So as hurricanes that are major like this churn up the ocean, it brings the cooler waters from underneath up to the surface. But in this case, there are no cooler waters to bring up to the surface. So again, as I said, jet fuel, grave concern here with these temperatures out in front of Hurricane Irma. The only thing we can hope for is that maybe there's some dry air intrusion or some kind of shearing or maybe land interaction at this point, because it's got plenty of fuel out over the water. Here are this morning's best performing models on Hurricane Irma. And these are the European, the operational and the ensembles that are the best performers. Of course, the ECMO is the operational model, and that takes it right into the metropolitan areas of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties on this track right here. And then you've got the best performer of all of these is out here, the EE29. However, with that said, the track has been pretty consistent, the movement of the storm anyways, in modeling. So it's been performing good up to this point, but here's where the problem is with this kind of a track this far east. It's possible, but it has it going way up like this, and the way this system is moving right now, in fact, it's already over here somewhere. So it's already well south of this track. So we have to go with the tracks that it's currently taking right now. So it's one of these three tracks right here, based on all the modeling data for over the past 5 days, calculating it over and over and over again. These are the best, and that's what the good thing is at Hurricane City. We calculate these, and you go to the link right below the tracking map that says Irma best track data, and you can do all these different runs with the models and figure out which ones are performing the best. But the European operational model and the ensembles 21 and 7 are the most logical tracks at this point. And again, the 21 would be the best track for Florida, and the other two would be trouble. Now, for comparison purposes, I decided to map out here the three major models that are the most reliable of all these 150 some odd models that are run. These are the three global models that are really just the basic guidance. And the UK Met model is the green, and that's a very good model for major hurricanes. And I'm still concerned about this track that could potentially impact Cuba, and we're going to watch carefully for that. When it gets around, tonight and going into tomorrow morning, there's going to be a little bit of a bend back to the west, and this is where things get really interesting as far as is this going to be a Cuba storm? And the UK Met thinks so, and it's a pretty good model. Now, here's the European, again, the best performer right up the gut in southeast Florida. And then the GFS has it out near Grand Bahama right here. And again, if that GFS pans out, that would be the best scenario for South Florida, worse for the Bahamas. But that really intense wind field would remain offshore southeast Florida, and it would be just hurricane force wind gust on the coast as opposed to major hurricane force winds. Big difference. So let's hope that GFS is correct. But if it's the Euro or the UK Met, UK Met may weaken it a bit with the land interaction, which would be also good news for South Florida. But if that Euro pans out, it's not going to be a good scenario for South Florida. So here's the timing on Hurricane Irma. As it approaches South Florida, it would be at 2 a.m. down here, 150 mile an hour winds on Sunday. And then as the morning progresses, the good thing about this is it would be happening in broad daylight. The height of it, would be right around 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon up in this area. And then late in the afternoon as you move further up the state. And then in the evening, it would be moving back offshore of Florida. So the worst conditions would be in daylight hours, which is good. So, it's very scary at nighttime. But in the day, at least you can see what's happening, provided you don't have shutters on your house. So the timing is that you have your tropical storm force winds are going to arrive well in advance of this. So by Saturday afternoon, you're done preparing for Hurricane Irma in South Florida. You have to have your preparations completed by Saturday afternoon. That's like the latest you're going to have a chance to do any adjustments of your window coverings and get loose items indoors, because the tropical storm force winds are going to start to arrive at that point. Okay, this is not a still shot. This is our live camera shot on the tower here at headquarters of HurricaneCity.com. And we're looking across the street. People are boarding up. They're taking this pretty seriously, although there's probably about 2/3 of the houses in here that are not shuttering up. Of course, some of these people may have impact-resistant glass or accordion shutters that just haven't been pulled shut yet, like we have here. But there are some people that are protecting their windows. Of course, there'll be a fevered pitch here probably today and tomorrow, as it appears that the core of this is going to pass over us. So all these fences you see, they're all going to get blown down. I'm worried about the roofs and the gable ends here for the high winds, blowing those in on some of these roofs with those kind of 150 mile an hour winds. That's what it's capable of. By the way, the winds are dead calm out here right now. Almost, there's not even a ruffle in the leaves right now. It's almost dead calm. So let's pan the neighborhood here. And there looks like they're shuttering across the street, getting ready anyways. They have their shutters built into their house. And both of those houses, side by side, both have shutters built into them. I know the people my next door neighbors over here both have impact-resistant glass. The guy next door right here and 2 doors down both have impact-resistant glass. Not sure about the people at the end of the street. The street behind us, they're not shuttering. Look at those French doors down there. That could be a real problem. Those could blow right in. I hope they're going to do something about covering those. Let's see, what else do we have here? Looks like none of the houses, there's some shutters being drawn over here. But all right, fresh off the press, the 8 a.m. advisory is in. Hurricane Irma still has winds of 180 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 17, so that's strong steering currents, and it's not going to waver off its track. And it is 165 miles southeast of Grand Turk Island and 110 miles north of Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. So it's still a Category 5. It hasn't really lost very much strength at all, 5 miles an hour. That's it. So we'll keep an eye on this. I'll be back with another update video tomorrow morning. And we'll be live tonight on HurricaneCity.tv and on our Facebook page. Check those logos on the front page of HurricaneCity.com. And if you live in South Florida, get ready. It's going to be bad. No matter what happens from here on out, unless it takes a wild northeast track out to sea or something, it's going to be very bad in South Florida. All right, that's it for now. I'll be back with another update video tomorrow. I'm Jim Williams. Thank you for watching.